Chat, here is the plan. We are gonna talk about something that I have been wanting to talk about for a while. Sam's recently made a video called Counter-Strike has a tournament problem. And it's how there's always a tournament on. I want to watch this video with you guys. I want to react to it. And then I want to talk about the article that recently came out about the stickers for the major. Okay, I want to talk about that. So let's dive into this stuff a little bit, okay? This is Sam's CSGO video, formerly Anomaly's editor. Very cool guy, one of my good friends.
Doesn't it feel like there's always a Counter-Strike tournament happening nowadays?
Yes.
That's because basically there is. In 2015, there were 308 tournaments with a total of $5,461,410.10 available to win, whereas in...
I will say one thing, this number is stupidly low. And I know it probably sounds outrageous to say that there is $5 million in prize pool and say that it's low. It is really fucking low for the amount of tournaments there are and for how much money Valve makes. I think Counter-Strike pros should have a much higher earning potential for the amount of travel they do, for the amount of grind it takes to get to the highest level. And I'm not trying to say they're underpaid. I'm trying to say compared to Dota 2, this is outrageous because Valve makes so much money on this game. And hosting 2 majors a year with a measly $1 million prize pool from Valve is ridiculous. Like, I love Valve as a company. They do so many things correct, but with Counter-Strike, they are greedy as hell. And it shows, especially compared to Dota.
$10 available to win, whereas in 2025, there were 690 tournaments with $23,469,079.15 available for teams to win. This is about 4.3 times the total prize pool since 2015 and more than double the total amount of tournaments played. But to be more specific, in 2025, there were 20 S-tier Counter-Strike tournaments.
Wait, did I miss it?
Top tournament, 4 available tournaments with a total of nowadays. That's because basically there is. In 2015, there were
this was 2015.
Available to
my bad.
$69,079.15.
0.79. Okay,
available for teams to win.
I missed it. $23 million. It sounds like a whole lot more. It's not really, given the fact that there are so many more tournaments now. There's almost 700 tournaments a year that this is split between. And the majors are still only 1 million each, which they should be much more for the pinnacle of the sport, because Dota is much more.
About 4.3 times the total prize pool since 2015, and more than double the total amount of tournaments played. But to be more specific, in 2025, there were 20 S-tier Counter-Strike tournaments. These are the top tournaments only the best teams can compete at. These events were hosted in 16 unique countries and spanned across 4 continents. Most teams, they don't play in every tournament, they pick and choose. For example, Team Spirit played in 15 of those tournaments, winning 4 of them. Falcons, well, they attended 16 and only managed to win 1, but Vitality had a great 2025. Of the 16 LAN events they attended, they won 9 of them, including both majors. To do this, assuming that the pros start their year in their home countries, they had to take a minimum of 18 flights. They spent about 115 hours that year just flying, with roughly a total flight distance of around 85,000 kilometers. That's just over 2 full laps of the Earth. But this is assuming that Team Vitality never takes a break between events, which would be pretty crazy if that was the case. So where does Vitality actually take a break between these tournaments? Do they like stay in the last one's country for a while after, or?
So basically, after each event, all the players go back home to spend time with family, friends, because it's hard for players to sometimes disconnect because there is a lot of events and a lot of media days also.
So between each event, they fly back to their home countries?
Yes.
Okay, so that means like the amount of flights they took was way above 30 in just a year. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot.
These stats.
A lot of the time, people will ask me in chat, why don't you want to go pro run, blah, 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 blah. YouTubers make really good money. And YouTubers get to do what I do right now, which is sit my ass at home, not travel, not practice, not sit on a server, not read up on demos and all of the shit like that. It is a much more cushy job than being a pro. I also don't get half the amount of death threats that most of the pro players do, and I'm not expected to perform to a level even close. So I work daily, I work a lot, I work long hours. I don't scratch the surface of what goes into being a pro, and I'm not pretending I do. It is a much harder job, and for a lot of pros, it's for less money. So I'm just very happy to be sat my ass at home, chilling. I have traveled 6 times this year, I believe. I was in Serbia, I was in Poland, I was in the Netherlands, I was in Texas, and then in Atlanta, and then I was in Cologne. And I've been invited to Paris, I've been invited to Beijing, I've been invited to Buenos Aires next year. But I'm already sick of traveling after 6 trips this year in 6 months. I'm sick of traveling. The pros do 2 to 3 times that. It's ridiculous. And a hotel room quickly loses its charm, chat. Very quickly. Do you want to buy a... You can do it on CS Money. On CS Money, you get the fastest trades on the market, low prices recently made even lower, and a wide selection of over 100,000 skins. You can buy and sell with PayPal, crypto, or trade your old skins for new ones. CS Money also has a market section with peer-to-peer trading, as well as an instant cash-out feature. Check them out with the link in the description.
Estimates. Like, I don't have Zywa's passport, so I can't see which airports they went to and if they had any layovers and stuff like that. Obviously, this amount of travel is worth it for a lot of these pros. Most of them are young and this is their dream career, and they are professional athletes. That's just what an athlete's lifestyle commands.
I think it is like important to mention how impressive it is when players who are new to Tier 1 Counter-Strike, I use Donk as an example. He came from a small Russian town, I think called Tomsk, and even though it's tough for everyone, we never heard any complaints about how quickly he, as such a young person, still would have been like 17 or 18 at that point, coped with the stresses and strains of performing while traveling all the time, being away from family. It's not that easy for everyone else.
A player it wasn't easy for, though, was Obo. He was young and from the United States and was thrown into the deep end of Tier 1 CS, playing in Europe far away from his friends and family, and also in the midst of a global pandemic. It was just simply too much for him, and he ended up flying back home mid-tournament without telling his team. So at the end of the day, these pros are also still human. They get affected by jet lag.
The Grand Slam took a lot of energy out of us, and we have 4 days off, the jet lag to Europe, then jet lag again to America.
They can also get physical injuries and illnesses.
It happened to us this year in Cluj, and Rops was super sick. We were unsure if he was able to play, so in case Matt, the coach assistant, was ready to step in, but at the end Rops chose to play the games. It was hard for him to play, I think it was the 2 first games, and then it went better. So,
but the CS pros aren't the only ones that move with the CS circuit. You've got casters, stage hosts, analysts, people doing interviews, and these are just the people you see on camera. There's so many more behind the scenes.
I think it's incredibly easy to underestimate how many people it takes to make a big CS LAN run smoothly. Not many stay tuned until the end of an IEM broadcast,
it's
for
a lot.
example. But on
It's
finals day, if you just take a watch through for a second.
Important to mention that the travel hell is forced because Valve VRS system, that is a whole another debate to get into.
The credits. I might give you
It's
an
also a
idea
mess.
like the scale of the operation. Not many people would kind of stay and watch that long. So I think it's always cool to see all the men and women you don't see on camera, the unsung heroes, and of course many of them are flown out.
But like I showed earlier, it is really hard to keep track of flight miles and times. But luckily for us, J-Raz, who works as an observer at CS events, he kept a log of every flight he took in 2025.
Flighty! I used to
stats, we can see that he spent 9 days and 11 hours just flying. This was split across 70 different flights to work at these events, flying a total distance of 151,640 kilometers. That's almost halfway to the moon. The actual on-screen talent operate in a...
That is the same amount of flights as I've had since 2023, chat. I've had 65 flights, of which 10 was long haul. I've flown 112,229 kilometers, which is 2.8 times around the world. 7 days and 16 hours of flights. So far in 2026, I've had 27 flights. I've been 34,000 kilometers. Almost a full lap around the world, and I've flown for 2 days and 11 hours. Last year, it was shorter distance, but I was flying for 3 days and 18 hours on 28 flights last year. So I've been traveling a lot in the 2 years I've been a content creator like this, like flying a lot.
Similar way to the pros. They can pick and choose which events they want to work at. For example, Machine works as a caster for 16 events in 2025, Hugo casted 17 events, Harry casted 18, Pimp worked as an analyst for 16 of them, Freya was desk talent for 15, and Maui Snake was an analyst for 12 of them.
2025, the one you looked at where I had 12 events, 15 if you can count the online portions of those, I was away from home for work for over 170 days. That's me only getting hired, by the way, for 2 of the TOs. If you get hired for all 3, I don't even think someone could live a life, you know, like you'd be just be on the road completely nonstop, never home at all. Already this year, I've already worked, 5 events, and it's not like they're all spaced out evenly. For the blast event that we had in Texas, I got home at 11 p.m. and then I had 1 full day at home where I basically just needed to do laundry, unpack, repack, record 1 podcast if possible, or whatever, do any content that I could, and then I was flying out to Astana the next morning at 6 a.m.
So teams and talent...
Not to like make this about like me and us and shit like that with content, but like for example, every time we go somewhere, like to an event, Dima and I are always talking about, okay, before traveling, we have to spend a lot of time grinding for videos, grinding up shorts. Like I was telling Dima I want to do a vacation this year for like 10 days, and he's like, oh, his first question isn't where are you going? I dead ass. His first question is, how are you going to be with shorts? Are you going to be with shorts? No one is forcing them to do it though. What a 0 IQ sentence to type out and then hit enter. That is crazy. Okay.
Traveling all the time and tournaments are always happening. But to understand why Counter-Strike is so busy today, we need to look at the tournament scene and
sentence
how
of
it got
someone who's
here in the
never
first
worked a
place.
job in
For
their
most
life,
of
bro.
Counter-Strike history, tournaments worked pretty simply. Tournament organizers would decide to host an event, and teams would either qualify for them or receive invites based on their rankings, their past performances, or just their reputation. It wasn't perfect, but generally speaking, the ecosystem was pretty open for teams to work their way up. But tournament organizers had a problem. Running esports events is massively expensive. You're paying for arenas, hotels, production, talent, and of course the prize pools. But after all of that, there was no guarantee the best teams would even show up to compete. So organizers started chasing stability, and that's where partnerships came in. Companies like Blast and ESL began building ecosystems where certain teams became long-term partners. For Blast and ESL, this meant getting the biggest names at their events more consistently, leading to larger viewership and a more stable product. And for actual partnered teams, instead of constantly grinding qualifiers, you were regularly appearing at the biggest events. That meant more prize money opportunities, a fairly regular schedule, which led to more stability even during periods of poor results. But if you weren't partnered with one of these tournament organizers, it was rough. Take a team like Fnatic. Even as a top level organization at the time, they weren't a Blast partner, meaning they couldn't just show up to the biggest Blast events. Instead, they'd have to grind through multiple layers of qualifiers just for a chance to reach the same events partner teams were already starting in. Now, technically, this wasn't franchising. That's where teams buy permanent spots in a league, meaning no matter how badly they perform, they can always compete in the next season. Games like League of Legends went heavily in this direction. In Europe, the initial franchise fees reportedly cost over 10 million euros per team for a permanent league spot. So the same set of teams would compete year after year, only really changing if they sold their spot to another team. Blast and ESL never did that. No team actually paid to compete. However, one CS organizer did try this. Flashpoint offered franchise-style slots, reportedly costing around $2 million per team. These teams weren't just gaining access to tournaments, they were actually buying into partial ownership of the league itself, along with revenue sharing and guaranteed participation. However, when the pandemic hit, it disrupted their entire competitive schedule and Flashpoint couldn't sustain itself. After only a few tournaments, the project had to be shut down. So Counter-Strike was in a weird place. It wasn't fully franchised, but it wasn't really open anymore either. But then at the end of 2022, Valve decided to take back control of tournaments by announcing Valve Regional Standings, or VRS. It's Valve's official ranking system that tracks team performance, with your ranking directly impacting your chances of getting invited to the top events. The exact way the rankings are calculated is based on a modified ELO ranking equation, and it's very complicated. Some teams have to outsource the calculations to data scientists to figure out which events they should or should not attend. And I'm far from a genius, so I've dumbed it down a lot here, but there are 4 main factors that are taken into account when calculating a team's ranking. First is bounty offered, which is based on the prize money your team has won. Second is bounty collected, which is based on the strength of the teams you beat, measured through their own performance results. Third is opponent network. This looks at how strong your opponent's own results are by considering who they've beaten. This helps Valve judge the overall strength of the competition around your results. And fourth is LAN wins, basically rewarding results from real-life LAN events more heavily than online play. There is also a result decay included in the calculation, so more recent results weigh more on your ranking. This new ranking system means that teams need to compete in bigger events.
The system makes sense.
To not lose against worse teams.
What the system is doing,
they need to keep attending as many real-life tournaments as possible to not lose ranking to the decay. So Valve announced the VRS system at the end of 2022, but it was first used for the 2024 major seeding and qualifications, but from the start of 2025, it became the system that determined invites for almost every Counter-Strike tournament. But VRS is far from perfect. One problem that comes up a lot is how major invitations are distributed. Rather than using the global ranking, Valve divides the world into 3 VRS regions.
You know what I miss? I miss open qualifiers for the majors. Even though I would never qualify to a major through an open qualifier, playing them were a lot of fun. Apart from the last time I did it, but playing a major qualifier and trying to like upset a team that kind of belonged, that shit was hella fun, bro. Like, do you guys remember the team Los Cogutos? They were a team that took some scalps. They like famously beat Astralis and shit like that when Astralis were fairly good. Who? Put some respect on Los Cogutos' name, bro. I wonder how far we have to go back, but wait. Los Cogutos versus Astralis. Can I find that? Los Cogutos eliminating Astralis from, oh my god, bro, from the IEM Road to Rio. And then the 2024 Copenhagen Major, who eliminated Los Cogutos from the qualifier? I did! Together with Fury and Kenny S and some other players. That was hella fun. That was a good stream, bro.
Europe, the Americas, and Asia. Each region is guaranteed at least one place
The day
at
after,
major,
not so
with
good
additional
stream.
spots being awarded depending on how well that
Those
region
who
performed
knows.
at previous majors. On paper, it sounds like a great idea. Underrepresented areas of the world get guaranteed representation at the major, but in reality, competition in those three regions is nothing alike. Europe has by far the deepest competitive scene. There are tons of strong teams constantly playing each other, meaning every event is packed full of difficult opponents fighting over the same ranking points. The Asia region couldn't be more different, because it's not really just Asia. Like, look at this map. The region covers almost half the planet. So for many smaller organizations, competing in tournaments across a region that size just simply isn't realistic. Some events can require flights of well over 10 hours, so it's more practical to stay and compete within your own local area, which just means the best teams in that area destroy all the teams there, but rarely travel to play each other, making their chances of qualifying for the major much more likely. And this region situation can be exploited the other way around. Team Liquid only just managed to qualify for the Cologne major because they had the budget to travel to Europe and compete against stronger opposition. And despite Liquid performing terribly, those events still offered far greater opportunities to improve their VRS than just competing within the American tournament circuit. And because
Like the
they
famous,
had 3 players from the Americas, they were eligible for an American
Face
invite
trying
to the major.
to
Another problem is that VRS has made it much harder
get into
for
the
new
major
teams to
by
break into top
the
level.
LAN in
Most of
Serbia.
the tournaments that award meaningful ranking points invite teams using VRS, but if you're a new team, you don't have a ranking, so it's incredibly difficult to receive those invites in the first place. And finally, because prize money directly influences the VRS rankings, tournament organizers suddenly have a huge incentive to advertise larger prize pools. Some even do so when they don't actually have it, just like the Parking Championship. After just finishing an event, they announced bankruptcy, leaving teams who won prize money not receiving it. So whilst that was a one-off, technically there's nothing stopping a tournament claiming they offer a $5 million prize pool. All the best teams go and play at the event, and then they say, sorry, we went bankrupt. So what happens to the awarded VRS? Is the prize pool variable still inflated in the VRS calculation? It's hard to say, and I really hope we never need to find out. So now that every tournament has a much bigger impact on your team's rankings, the importance on players to perform at their absolute best is at an all-time level of importance. And because of this, we've been seeing a lot more players talk about burnout.
If you want to be a tier 1 competitor, best of the best, you really have to sacrifice a lot. That's what I did for the past couple of years, and I feel like I've missed a lot in life.
While researching the amount of
I have so much sympathy for the people that, okay, so here's the thing, right? As someone who is sat my ass at home, just a dude, no family, no significant other to spend time with, right? I'm a dude in a house. I have nothing chaining me down here except for my family, except for my mom and my dad and my sister and my extended family. I'm the prime type of dude to go pursue something like this, right? And I could never imagine wanting to try. First of all, I don't have interest in pro play. I never have had, but it's also the time away from home. It's just not me. I like traveling, not like this. Not like this. Like, this is exhausting. And then you can imagine being someone like Messi, who is the best player in the world. Or like one, he's on the best team in the world. He's best anchor in the world. Best in his position. But he also has a kid and a wife at home. And he's having another child. And having to have your kid grow up and not be able to be there every day, so difficult. That is such a sacrifice to make as a father. Now, granted, he's doing it partly to give his family the best future he can, and he wouldn't be the first man to sacrifice his time with his kids to provide, but man, it is hard to be away. You know what I mean? It's really hard to be away that much. I don't envy the pros this.
clips I found of players and coaches celebrating their birthdays with their teams was crazy. Instead of spending this day with their families, most of the time, pros have to spend it with their teams in a practice room somewhere. This permanent state of traveling and being away from home can obviously cause a strain on all types of relationships. And again, it's not just the pros affected.
The tension.
And yeah, this is also a big thing. When you are hanging out with someone every day, all the time, permanent, right? It is... tempers flare, disagreements happen, you are friendly sometimes, sometimes not. I've heard stories from pros, I'm not going to say names or who it is or what team it's about, but I've heard stories from pros about entire teams being good and winning, but not liking each other anymore. Not wanting to spend time together outside the server anymore. And then what do? You're far away from family and friends, and your teammates are now just co-workers. You are just spending time with people that you don't necessarily want to spend time with. And this is probably a tale as old as time. It happens to a lot of people. And man.
And again, it's not just the pros affected.
The tensions of essentially a long distance relationship for half the year is pretty stressful for anybody. It's definitely puts a strain. Also your family relationships, your friend relationships. The bond between me and some of my friends has definitely weakened over time. I'm not at home to either play games with them as much or to hang out with them as much. So that hurts too.
This effect can reach anyone and at any time. Even after just winning a major as a coach, Zonic was calling his kids back home to celebrate, and later said this.
I'm getting a bit tired. It's been some long years, and kids are getting older.
You're not saying that you're going to leave us soon, are you?
I don't know. It's my wife is standing right there, and it's always up to her. We take it season by season, but I'm getting a bit tired now.
He later tweeted about this moment, saying that in the VRS tournament landscape, there are a lot of tournaments, and provided us with some more stats. He spent 126 days traveling, with only 24 days off and 35 days at home. He's got 2 kids, and now he's at a point in his career where he's heavily considering retiring, despite still being at the top of his game. And sometimes it goes way beyond just missing birthdays and family time. We've seen players and staff get awful news from home in the middle of tournaments, and they still keep showing up the next day because the event is still running and the tournament schedule doesn't care what's happening in your personal life.
It's not an easy thing to be a professional Counter-Strike player, especially at the top. There's a lot of sacrifices that people maybe don't realize. It's not easy to full focus behind your PC for 10 hours every single day, 6 times a week, then travel there, pressure there. Like, obviously it's worth it for many people, but it's not easy.
And this is the part that some viewers just can't get through their heads. They think the pros have been gifted this opportunity and are quick to throw massive amounts of hate at the pros for losing a game or just having a bad performance. And these sort of comments do actually affect pros.
Maybe I am the problem after all.
And because of VRS, even when players clearly need extra time off, the system isn't designed to take that into consideration. And that's why player breaks matter more than ever.
The thing is, we understand that physical endurance is something that you need to take.
And as of recent, there are orgs putting pressure on their players to play during the player break too, so that they can hunt VRS points. And this is becoming more and more common.
Break 4, and I think we don't understand that mental fatigue is also a thing that needs rest, and that's where the issue lies. Like, if you don't understand this, you don't see the need of a player break.
But what actually...
Here's one thing I want to explain, and I don't want to put this into the whole streaming and pro play is harder than a 9 to 5. That's not the debate I'm trying to fucking access here. But I have done both. I have worked a 9 to 5 for about 10 years of my life. For much more than I've been a streamer, have I worked normal retail and cold calls and traveling marketing and customer support. And I've done a lot of things, healthcare. I've worked in a lot of jobs. And my dad said it to me one time. He said, I think your job now is harder than any of the jobs you've had before, and it's harder than the job I had. And he says, being a performer who is on at all times is more straining on your mental than having to be someone who can come and go with mental focus, someone who can come and go with the effort they put in, someone who can go to work one day and not really put in effort. Because your body is made to clock in and clock out, to have uptime and have downtime, and not always give your all. And more importantly, your body is meant to have physical fatigue, not mental fatigue. And when you flip that on its head and it's all mental fatigue at all times and every day is a work day and you don't really get to clock out, that tires me out in a way that all of my 9 to 5s never did. And if you throw on top of that mental strain from relationships or friendships or difficulty with people in your life, or maybe you have a hard time with your parents or girlfriend, and then you're also supposed to go and perform mentally. And I'm not speaking about like as for me, I'm speaking about like for a pro player going through these things and then traveling and then going away from the people that are causing you distress or that you want to patch up things with. And it's all mental, right? It's all mental. And when you're always straining your mental, I find that much harder to recover than I do physical. If I'm physically tired, I just go do physical activity anyway. And the physical tiredness goes away. Your body's a machine. It's meant to do this. It's what you're made for. And for me, that's never been a problem. And for a lot of people, that's never been a problem. And obviously, not all people are like me. Some people handle this much better than I do. And some people handle physical activity much worse than I do. So everyone is different. But I think it's hard for people that haven't been in the position that I'm in, and the position of a pro player, and the position of someone who needs their mental bandwidth preserved to kind of perform and to do what you're supposed to do, to understand what goes into it. In the same way that it's impossible for me to understand what goes into working a purely physical job like being a lumberjack, right? So what I'm trying to say is have some more kindness to each other. Maybe treat each other with a little bit more grace and patience than what maybe feels necessary. Because it's hard to look into someone's life and see more than just the result. And yeah, I don't know. I've always found this debate to be like difficult and weird. Same with uni. I study and work. Like, bro, if I'm physically tired, I just lay down. It's fine. But when I have to study for like 2 weeks, bro, it's so much worse. Yeah. And depending on what you study, I'm sure it can be really tough. But for my sakes, for example, when I did uni and I worked full-time next to uni full-time, I didn't have a problem with it. I still maintained a social life. I drank 2 times a week. I went partying. I played American football. I did a bunch of stuff. Granted, I was doing a bachelor's degree in economics and business, and that is widely considered to be one of the easier ones to take. And I do truly believe it is. Something compared to, like, say, medicine would be much harder. The law would be much harder.
Is a player break in CS. They're usually a sort of
again different for different people. For some people it would probably be very difficult.
Events are held. But for most of their existence, player breaks have only been a gentleman's agreement between tournament organizers, agreeing not to host events during that period. The break is designed to allow teams to reshuffle players with enough time to prepare for the next season. And most importantly, players actually
You didn't do econ, you just did business. Econ is one of the hardest. What the fuck do you know about my degree, bro? You know nothing about my degree. What? Huh?
A break.
I think first of all it's absolutely mandatory to have a player break and to be off CS,
Is
like
econ
off
hard
tournaments,
now?
off pressure, off traveling, all
Since
those
when?
things for like a couple of weeks a year. I would say in CS it's already quite tough. Like the schedules you rarely have planned vacations or planned off weeks, or it's only like a couple of them.
But there have been attempts to formalize the player break, most notably with the formation of the CSPA in 2018, an association established to represent professional Counter-Strike players, with many active and former pros serving on its board. They advocated for things like 6-man rosters and, more controversially, introduced
Wait. Sorry.
They advocate.
If you say econ is easy, you didn't do econ. I'm sure it was hard for you, bro. I don't want to be an asshole. I'm sure it was hard for you, IMM. I have never struggled with a subject in my life. I have never taken on a subject that I found difficult. Even once. Never even once. I took extra credits to specialize myself in tax law for fun. I don't know what to tell you. For fun, that's not fun. I actually found the subject really fun. I like tax law. Just show your degree, then if you have it, prove it pretty simple. What? Show it? I have to prove myself? To you? That's called life, buddy. CS pros aren't the only ones that aren't home to see their kids and wife. Oh my god, you're miserable. My dad, my entire childhood, was a CEO of a huge marine harvesting company and seismic activity company. He traveled all my childhood. All my childhood he traveled. And he was very present in my life regardless. I'm fully aware that a lot of people travel for work. I've never once said they don't. But I'm going to be so honest, and I'm just going to fucking say this, even though you probably don't agree and you don't want to hear this. Their life is harder than whatever the fuck you are picturing. Their life is much harder. Because if you travel for work and you work a 9 to 5, you clock in, you clock out, you have time, you have free time. These guys don't. They go to performance, they go to media shoots, they go to this, they go to that. They're expected to perform on and off. They're expected to eat specific things. They're expected to sleep at specific hours. They have a performance job. Most people traveling don't. And then they also have to bear the brunt of people like you, telling them that the shit they do is easy, that they should be grateful, that they're not alone, that they are blessed to be in their position, and that they should die for losing a game that someone had bet money on. You don't understand the mental strain that goes into a job like being a pro player. You do not even come close to understanding it. You are worlds apart, bro. Your take is so lukewarm. How are people mad? Yeah, I know. I know. It's not even a controversial take. I'm positive. I'm not even talking about me now. I'm talking about being a pro player. I don't travel that much. I'm saying the mental strain of this job and this stuff is difficult as hell. And I understand that people are like, oh, streamers have it easy. Yeah, we do. When you've gotten to where I am right now, yeah, we have it easy. Great. But there would be 0 people in chat right now doing what I did for 4 years for free and losing money. None of you. None of you would do what I did for 4 years, chasing this delusional dream while losing money to get here. None of you. Burning through my savings. None of you. And I'm not saying that makes me different or makes me successful or whatever the fuck. It was equal parts ambition and delusion. And I lucked out and I got here. But I also worked my fucking ass off. Even when it didn't work. I posted 400 videos that didn't work. Before number 401 took off. And then I sat down and I kept going. Do you guys have any idea how many YouTubers and Twitch streamers I talk to, and they ask me like, how do I get to the next level when I can't afford an editor? And they think I could afford an editor. I learned to edit. I taught myself to edit. That's a skill I taught myself. And then I worked for 14 hours a day, streaming and then editing. Like, it is ridiculous. Like, we talk about what, affording an editor? What afford an editor? We're out of our mind. We're absolutely out of our mind.
For things like 6-man rosters and, more controversially, introduced their own ranking system, which they hoped tournament organizers would adopt for invites. But one of the main things they did was work with tournament organizers to set official days for when the player break could take place, with any tournaments happening during this period not counting towards the CSPA rankings. On paper, it seemed like a positive step. Players had clearer periods to rest, tournament organizers had more predictable scheduling windows, and for a while, the system largely worked, even throughout the online era during COVID. However, the CSPA didn't actually have any real authority over the break, so they couldn't act on their demands. Because of this, cracks eventually started to show. According to Apex, many players stopped contributing to CSPA discussions, leaving a small group of active members making decisions that affected things like scheduling and player breaks. In 2022, when the CSPA announced when the 2023 player break would be, lots of pros, even those on the board, were confused and disappointed with the player break this time being before the major. And not surprisingly, after that incident, everyone left the board, and the CSPA quietly faded away. Their website link now leads to some sketchy Thai gambling site. So we've basically come full circle. We're back to having no governing body to determine when the player break is or to make it mandatory. But VRS has actually massively impacted the player break, and not in a good way, because most teams now actually get
Here's what we talked about an hour ago.
VRS rating. So some teams are willing to sacrifice this break to instead attend any tournaments that take place during it. For example, XSE Pro League is taking place just after the Cologne Major, with teams competing in it, some of which were just competing in the Major. And recently, Blast announced the first stage of qualifiers for the Blast Premier Open, and they will take place.
There's a first-time message. It got caught by the saying filter, but I want to read it anyway. As a blue-collar worker, I don't get much time to sit down and play and see my close ones. Too tired to do shit when I get home, and it's sad to see young pro players that don't have time to see their families. Yeah, no. Here's the thing, right? Like, I don't want to sit there and say, like, you have it easy or that I have it easy. I think we can both have it hard. I think that's fine to say, right? But we have it hard for different reasons. When I worked cold calling, my favorite thing to do in my free time was play League of Legends with the boys, right? But man, is it hard to go home and sit down at a computer when you've spent 8 to sometimes 14 hours at the office calling people who don't want to talk to you to sell them a product that they don't think they need while staring at a monitor. Coming home and then continuing staring at a monitor and talking to people is hard, right? It is hard. And for some people, if you have a family and you have kids and you are dead tired as a lumberjack, you come home and your kid wants to play catch, I'm sure that's hard too, right? The grass will always be greener on the other side. You'll always, yeah, no, for sure, right? So a lot of people probably think that this is like a dream job for everyone and that nobody could ever like disagree with this. I think people don't have any understanding for worlds they haven't lived in. And that probably goes for me too, right? But I have worked a lot of jobs. I don't want anyone telling me that I don't know what I talk about with retail, because I have worked retail, and I have worked cold calling, and I have worked bullshit traveling jobs, probably more than most of you guys in chat. And it's not a competition. I'm just saying, like, I am qualified to talk about this shit.
If they want to break in,
if you wanna have this opinion about a streamer, go have it about Dima or Onepixel or Tweeday, because this content stuff is all they've ever known. I ain't the same, not in that regard.
that top echelon of competition, playing during the player break and taking the invite of one of these tournaments, that is an opportunity for them to get an in while other teams aren't playing.
It is two-sided. Teams who put aside their need for the break can grind these tournaments and gain VRS, while teams who need to take that break will miss out on those points. And individually, if a player wants or needs to take a break themselves, they potentially sacrifice all the hard work they've put into their career so far. And looking at that data from earlier, the sheer amount of tournament increase since 2015 is actually mainly in these A, B, and C tier events. We can see that in 2015 there were 213 C tier events. Comparing this to C tier events in 2025, well, there are so many now that Liquipedia actually breaks them up into quarters of the year. But combined, there were 545 tournaments with a total prize pool of $3,168,274.25. And yes, to calculate this, I manually added every prize pool in Liquipedia by hand. And you might wonder, oh, Sams, why didn't you just use AI for this? Well, I fucking tried and it was always wrong. I don't know how anyone could trust this. Literally every time it would give me a different answer. Anyways, because of the increase in tournament money, it just means that better teams are wanting to compete in these smaller events. And honestly, it does make me feel a bit sad seeing teams like this being this excited to qualify for an S tier event. Meanwhile, top teams are actively dropping into tournaments they're obviously overqualified for, easily winning and still competing in the top events. But a positive of VRS is that it makes it exponentially more risky for top teams to take this approach.
There's no room for mistakes, like especially if you want to make the major, you cannot lose one game to a top outside 50 team. It will hurt you so much, you'll have to win 3 times against a good team to get the points back, I would say.
But another side effect of the increase in tournaments, specifically LAN events, is that some teams get heavily affected by the visa process. More LAN tournaments means more flights to more countries, some of which your home country might not be on great terms with, meaning players are more frequently than ever not having their visas approved on time and have to miss events. And with the way geopolitics has impacted other sports recently, it's pretty clear that this is going to be a recurring issue with CS tournaments soon enough. To make things even worse for teams, Valve changed the way major stickers work at the Colo Major. Qualifying for a major isn't just about prestige. The stickers themselves are one of the biggest financial lifelines for organizations. Valve has now changed how these sticker revenues are distributed. Instead of everyone at the major receiving the same share from a sticker capsule, a team's payout is now influenced by their VRS ranking before the event, later being adjusted based on their major performance, and they removed the capsules entirely. That means teams already near the top of the rankings receive a larger share from the start, while lower ranked organizations have to outperform expectations just to catch up. While the system is logically fair, the top teams should get more money, the organizations that relied on the old sticker system to afford to compete were completely blindsided by this change, and team organizations have started speaking up about it. Aurora's owner warned that some tier 2 and tier 3 organizations outside of Europe may simply have to give up on the major dream, and that majors would lose their sense of importance. And M80 CEO has also spoken up about reduced revenues following Valve's changes. So organizations now having to review their finances to see if it's even possible for them to continue operating in this VRS landscape.
And for the players themselves, a lot of players would be, say that you're a pro player in the tier 1 scene, you could be making like 10k a month, which is good money. You're making 120k a year, right? But for a lot of people, making 120k a year is also doable with a degree at home. And for a lot of people, that's what they would want to chase if they could choose between flying for 200 days a year or not. And the promise of sticker money, bumping that from 120k to say 350k, $500,000, that's what they were chasing. That was their dream. That was why they worked for this for 8 years before becoming a pro. Not the case anymore. From what I've heard regarding this major and the sticker sales now, it is really, really bad. And I haven't read the article on HLTV. I figured I would read it on stream with you guys.
This could lead to
players competing
in more events for less salary.
I've heard it's really bad.
Could take possibly shady sponsors and majors will lose their importance. But despite the bleak picture I've painted for most of this video, many pros and talent are still able to start families and have become massively successful. Apex recently announced his wife is pregnant. Rops and Flames often travel with their girlfriends. Mezzi already has a kid.
Rops has a beautiful relationship, I believe.
Other pros have found ways
they look
to make
really
this
happy
career
together.
work for them and their families. And broadcast talent are also finding ways to make the travel work for them.
I've been really fortunate lately because my girlfriend and I moved. She left her job, so she's actually just been flying with me. So that has made home feel very close on the latest handful of events that she's gone to.
So for the most part, CS is succeeding. More tournaments happening across different skill levels means more money is available than ever before. That money doesn't just end up in the hands of the teams lifting trophies. It spreads throughout the entire ecosystem, supporting.
In the future, whenever the time comes, I don't think I would want a partner to like fly to events with me. I think the idea of walking around an event and having them along as I'm talking to fans and shit like that and having a hard time moving through the crowd, I think it would just be boring. I don't think I would want that. I'm at work. You know what I mean? I'm just at work when I'm at events. I love it, but I'm at work. Like the 4 or 5 days I'm at a LAN, I'm running around as much as humanly possible to meet the most amount of people watching my content and shit like that as I can. I'm not there to sit in a plushy VIP lounge with the boys and eat for free. I'm working. That is working.
Players and coaches and production crews and the tournament organisers responsible for bringing us this entertainment. And it is worth mentioning that we are incredibly lucky to be able to watch these live broadcast productions for free. Almost every other sport in the world is behind some sort of paywall. But the question isn't if the game is thriving, it's whether the people making it so can continue to keep up. Because every year the calendar is getting busier, every year the expectations are getting higher, and every year the line between success and burnout gets a little thinner. Whether this problem can be solved by Valve, the tournament organisers, or the players themselves, only time will tell.
Every year, more tournaments. Every year, higher pressure. Every year, less breaks. Every year, over and over again, bro. Difficult, bro. Holy shit, Dima, at 200k in 2 days. Why did I have to use a thumbnail where I had my fuck-ass little pencil mustache on, bro? I've not shaved for a few days. Never post again. Damn. Got to trim the beard a little, bro. That's for Dima. I don't have a beard in this video. Toxic bot renyan. What did I do? It's a for fun challenge. This guy talking about the other is licking his lips while he's making faces like he's gonna shit himself every time before shooting. I just have motor overflow, bro. Be nice, man. Okay. Here's the HLTV article, chat. Let's go through it real quick. A catastrophe. How the new major sticker system is impacting the CS scene. If you've been browsing HLTV or scrolling through social media hoping to catch even the faintest trace of blockbuster transfer rumors during this offseason, you'll certainly have been disappointed. Once again, the expectations of a full-blown roster mania with top-tier organization making sweeping changes and getting involved in bidding wars for the hottest talent has fallen short. After a season largely dominated by Vitality, capped off by Falcon's dream run title to the Cologne Major, many organizations certainly wish they could have made upgrades to have a shot at challenging for trophies in what's left to play in 2026. The money just isn't there. So this is also something that's going to be happening probably. It's the fact that in an open market, you have a concept called price elasticity, and a price for a product is always elastic, depending on supply and depending on what people are willing to pay for it. And this goes for anything. This goes for me and my sponsors. This goes for pro players. This goes for the butter you put in the shelves at the store. And if you want product to move, the price has to be elastic. And what will happen is that first, the price for players will be too high and it will not be supported by the market underneath. And then the prices will go down. And players will get cheaper and it will move up and down. And right now, I think we've been at a point where players have been at a ridiculous price for a long time. Like, take Kioska signing was massive. Monacy signing was massive, right? I believe. Wasn't Monacy the 600k kid from Navi Academy back in the day? Right? So, yeah, stuff like this. We're probably going to see the recoil coming in very soon. The current climate calls for belt tightening rather than lavish spending on transfer deals that carry risk and may not deliver desired results. Valve has scrapped the capsule unboxing system for stickers. Instead, fans purchased tokens to redeem the stickers they wanted at extortionate prices. Meanwhile, Valve published a formula for splitting 50% of the revenue generated by the Major Shop and Major Pass, 5% to the tournament organizers, and the remaining 45% distributed among the 32 teams based on their VRS rank and major performance. Meaning Valve is taking half. And half of very little is going to be a hell of a lot less than whatever it was before, because people would buy capsules hand over fist before, but there is no one buying 10 major stickers for $39,348. There is no one doing that. No one. None. For each team position, half of the royalties are shared with the team organization, and the other half is split equally among the 5 players. Wow. So each player is getting 10% of a sale. Of the half. Before this, the bulk of players cut from the team's items have been determined through negotiation with their organization. Once the stickers hit the market, dynamic pricing quickly left many fans unable to afford the most desirable items. Chad, I'm a fairly liquid guy. I didn't buy any stickers. Because I looked at the prices and I'm not going to pretend I'm the person here that has that is the most in touch with what things could and should cost. But I looked at all the stickers and I went, what the fuck? Who buys this? So I can't imagine how everyone else feels, right? I'm sure 99% of you guys are with me on that. Whereas before they could spend a few dollars on capsules for a shot at a rare sticker, even if it was just for the thrill of gambling, they now have to pay considerable sums for the most popular items. The high cost of entry pushed many regular players out of the market and sharply reduced the global trade volume for major items. I think everyone understood this immediately. Donk's Cologne 2026 gold sticker now costs $1,220 for one sticker. This is usually the price it will be at 5 years down the line, when the market has been cornered by people stocking up and waiting for them to rise more, or crafts having been made. Aurora Founder was one of the first to raise the alarm. It's by far the worst major in terms of sticker sales, and the situation definitely isn't going to get any better. What's concerning to me about this is that I know what a lot of players made from sticker money from the Copenhagen major. I know what a lot of players made from sticker money from the Austin major, from the Budapest major. And every major since Paris, the players I've spoken to about sticker money have been telling me the same thing over and over. The number is getting lower and lower and lower and lower each year. So for this to be the worst one, it's truly gotten bad. During our reporting, HLTV spoke with several orgs that competed at the IM Cologne Major across the different stages. Many declined to share their sticker revenue because of a confidentiality agreement signed with Valve. One of the teams to exit Major in Stage 1 told HLTV that they had made approximately $60,000, or $120 if you consider the same amount went to the players under new 50-50 systems from the sale of the items. So each player made $12K? That's it? For a year of competing to get to the highest stage? Endless qualifiers? $12K! Fuck you mean only $12K? Always a guy like you, Robic. Always a guy like you. $12K? That's it? That is incredible. Meanwhile, Valve is making 100 to 150 million a month. Wow. This is a catastrophe for the CS scene, the Stage 1 organization told HLTV. No sooner had Valve released the Cologne Major stickers than Mortis Askadabar Straube understood the huge wave of trouble that was about to hit the scene. Instantly, from the first moment, I knew this was going to be a disaster, the Sinners co-founder told HLTV. The update put a damper on the Czechs organization's excitement after it had finally made the major, more than 6 years after entering the game with a local lineup. Sinners have been the last team. I love Sinners, bro. I love the Sinners, and I love the Sinners staff. It was Sinners management, long-time Counter-Strike fans and players themselves have been waiting for the chance to immortalize the organization in the game. It was always also meant to be the financial windfall that would help them break even after years in the red and eventually scale up operations. As euphoric and happy as we were, and as many tears as we shed that we'd finally made the major, that was pretty quickly squashed when we saw all this and we were like, this is shit. The new sticker system upended everyone's projections. Contracts had been drafted around the pre-existing model, with salaries and bonuses negotiated accordingly. The expectation was that Cologne would, at the very least, match the payout from Budapest. But given the level of prestige attached to the event and the hype surrounding many teams, it was not out of the realm that the possibility that it could be the most lucrative major since Shanghai. They're not even talking about Paris or Antwerp, which, to my knowledge, were much more lucrative than any of the CS2 majors. To my knowledge, from what I've heard from players. But that means that it also depends on the players I've heard it from. They could be making more than others. You based your calculation on something that was obvious to you because it had been like this for close to a decade at this point, Askada noted. And now for the first major that you make it to, they change everything and you're completely screwed financially, from the stickers at least. It's disheartening, you know. that is putting it kindly. Another Stage 1 organization, which asked to remain anonymous, made a significant investment in a player with a view to making a major, hoping that it would recoup most of the money it had spent on a transfer with the sticker payout. The expectation has now collapsed entirely. Of course, sticker revenue was never fully predictable. No one knew exactly how much money would come in at the end, or if you qualified. A representative from the organization told HLTV. But if you qualified for a major and received that revenue, you could build around it. You could invest in infrastructure, developing young talent, strengthening your organization, and support higher player salaries. That opportunity has now largely disappeared. Keep in mind, chat, while we're talking about this and while we're reading this, Valve is also denying these orgs gambling sponsors. They're denying the orgs marketed play sponsors under certain rule sets. They are hamstringing their earnings potential while Valve themselves are making money hand over fist. Hand over fist, they're making money. And they're killing their own scene while doing it. They can have a regular betting sponsor? Yes. And do you think the regular betting sponsor is going to pay them as much, knowing that half of the potential sponsors are blacklisted and can't be taken? Or do you think this, by quite a big margin, lowers the amount of money that orgs can get paid by these sponsors now? Because they don't have the options to go with whoever they want to go with. I'm not advocating for any gambling. I'm saying I'm being pro-org. I'm not being pro-gambling, okay? Please understand what I'm saying here. It's players who have benefited the most from the change. In some cases, I think you're going to find that teams are going to players asking them to pay back the money that Valve has sent them. 100 Thieves head of operations Graham Macioso Pitt said on Come Here in May. Because if they didn't have a split in their contract, the team will now feel entitled to the money that has been given to them that shouldn't have been given to them. And then in other cases, you're going to find players who are saying, I've got my Valve money, now I need your part of the Valve money. This can go both ways, in all honesty. The timing of the update could not have been worse. With only weeks to go before Cologne, it became an unnecessary distraction for some teams and disrupted practice. Of course it did. And while the major is now in the rearview mirror, everyone is still trying to figure out how to navigate this new system, one that could change again in unpredictable ways before the next major. Rendering most language and contracts about it invalid or unprecise. Damn. There's a feeling of anxiety and apprehension among most people HLTV spoke with for this article. Gaming Gladiators pulled the plug on their CS division, citing recent changes to the major ecosystem and revenue structure. Yeah. Some teams will die as a cause of this, directly. Because the sticker money and the promise of it at the end is kind of the carrot you're working towards. And if the carrot sucks, then you give up. The stickers are what kept the dream alive, an organization told HLTV. You invested for years because if you made it to a major, that was supposed to pay for everything. You kept chasing that carrot. Oh my god, did he pre-read this? Askadar, the Sinners co-founder, said, a question for everyone is, do we want to continue in this ecosystem where the biggest goal you want to reach is really just another tournament? I think everyone in Tier 2 needs to ask themselves this question, because what's the point if there's no financial upside on the other end? I'm so mad at Valve for all this shit, bro. You have a team like Sinners who for years and years grind through Tier 2, Tier 3. The entire scene is riddled with match fixing. Valve doesn't care. Valve doesn't do anything. They don't step in. They don't address it. They destroy the pipeline of new talent coming into the scene, and then they hamstring it further with the VRS system. Meanwhile, the game itself is struggling, and it's... Where is the effort being put in? Where is the point where they're trying? Because I'm still looking and trying to figure out where the fuck their effort is going. Sinner spent between 25,000 and 35,000 flights in a hotel during the first quarter of 2026 to play LAN events and have a shot at qualifying for the major. Like many other organizations, they were playing by the rules laid out when Valve put an end to the partner leagues and set up an open ecosystem. For a small organization, that is a ton of money. We were like, we want to make the major and have a shot here. Let's travel as much as we can and go to all these tournaments. It's fine. We're going to make the money back if we qualify. Well, we're not. Keep in mind, this is the money spent on flights and hotels. Then you have salaries. You have staff, like not players, but player help staff. You have the ownership of the team, the C-suite. You have costs outside of this with food and with setups, and you have all the money coming in with sponsors and stuff like that, but even that is like controlled by Valve and handpicked by Valve to a certain extent, right? The general sentiment is that the gap between elite orgs and the rest will now only widen if the sticker payouts remain this low, which also makes sense because now the bigger teams that are already making the most money are going to be making more. Smaller orgs whose business models rely heavily on major items will struggle to stay afloat. The new payout structure, which rewards performance, will also impact how orgs will invest moving forward. Whereas, correct me if I'm wrong, before you would be paid from an equal amount from whatever capsule you was in. So if you were in a more desirable capsule, you would make more money. And if you were in a less desirable capsule, you would make less, but you would still make as much as anyone else in that capsule. So for example, if you were a bad team, but you were in a capsule with, say, Spirit or Navi or Furia, who have rabid fan bases, you would still make a good amount of money based on their teams gambling for the stickers they wanted. Or if you were in a capsule with a team that had disbanded, like 100 Thieves previously, then people would hunt that sticker. And every team in that sticker capsule would make a lot of money as a consequence. Previously, being the worst team at the major, provided that you also paid the lowest salary at the major, was a great spot to be at. It will be less desirable moving forward. Might seem like a good move, rewarding the best teams the most, and I am not saying that it's not, but it does definitely remove a large part of the carrot that kept tier 2, 3 organizations investing into potentially making the major. And this is a problem, because this is the pipeline that keeps the sport alive. It's not a problem now, it's a problem in 5 years. That's when it's a problem. Meanwhile, the biggest organizations will survive because of their diversified revenue streams, but not without cost cutting. Gone seem to be the days of 7-digit transfer fees in Counter-Strike, as organizations are becoming more risk-averse. A salary correction for players, several people noted, looks inevitable, though it may take a few years for many existing contracts to be renegotiated. And that's where we're talking about the price elasticity from before. This recoil takes time. Many express that Valve will be forced to revise the sticker system before the Singapore major, if nothing else because its own proceeds from Cologne have taken a significant hit to previous major. What that change might look like is anyone's guess at this point, but a return to capsule seems unlikely given the regulatory and legal scrutiny Valve has faced over loot boxes in recent years. It sure as hell has to change back to something that is accessible, because that is, I think, is the main problem of the current stickers. It's how inaccessible they are to the 99% of people that want to buy them, myself included. I don't want to spend 1.2k stickers or 1.2k dollars on a donk stickers. Like why? Why would I want to do that? Just like terminals, yeah. But the terminal would also be inaccessible in the same way, because like right now, if you unbox something in a terminal, the price for you to grab it from the terminal is the same price or even slightly more than what it would cost you to grab it from the Steam community market. And that means it's going to be a hell of a lot less than what it would cost you to grab it from a third-party site. And then it becomes a question of, okay, then who keeps unboxing? Who keeps unboxing then? Because there is no point anymore to unbox when you can go on a third-party site to buy it there, right? Like, why would we keep doing it? In the past, we shipped team and player autograph stickers in capsules, Valve said when releasing clone stickers. With this, while this approach was popular, we've heard feedback that players might prefer to purchase stickers directly. They have not. They have absolutely not. Additionally, players in certain regions cannot purchase sticker capsules, so we're exploring alternatives that will allow all players to participate. And you alienated your audience in doing so. Perhaps the gravity of the situation calls for deeper reflection on how stickers came to be treated as a guarantee rather than a bonus, inflating salaries and transfer fees to disproportionate levels, and on the disconnect between Valve and the competitive scene, which will inevitably push more organizations out of the game. All this poses a threat to the diversity of Counter-Strike's esports ecosystem. A strong tier 2 space is essentially promoting CS as a global game and feeding new talent into the scene. A representative for tier 1 org said he fears CS could follow in the footsteps of the Dota scene, where funding has dried up and sponsorship opportunities outside of betting remain limited. A month on from the Cologne final, there is still no word on a sale, which has historically been a big driver of revenue. Sticker sales have nearly ground to a halt. One team told HLTV that it's earning around $100 a day. For all the hype that Major generated and the viewership records that it's shattered, many are struggling to see any silver lining amid the dark clouds looming over the scene. It was a fantastic major, Askar said, but outside of it being Cologne and the cathedral, the mood was pretty tame. I think everyone saw that this is bad, and there's really nothing Valve can do at this point that is going to make it better. Damn. The situation is dire, and I have a feeling that over the coming 2 years, we're going to have less people inclined to be a pro player. We're going to have less orgs inclined to make a gamble on the scene. And yeah, being a content creator becomes more and more attractive each day, chat. Each day.